is I now have two 9-inch Garmin SV units on my boat. So the reason for all this, a lot of this wiring, was to get some permanent power to these that wasn't over the number 16 gauge wire that comes with the boat. So I ran two separate power cables, one to each unit, because I was having problem with interference on the front unit when I had the 7-inch striker on there. And showing it from the back here now, I just routed the cable up under there and through this compartment. And this is where it gets tricky. Okay, your control handles here, that doesn't come away real easy. There are a couple screws in the bottom if you need to get it farther away. But I will warn you, these screws in the back, when the first time I took this off and put it back in, I did screw into a power cable and was blowing a fuse and having a problem there. So anyway, be very, very careful routing through this area. From here, it goes down into the console area. And you can see, reach around there, you can see my hand. So you can drop your wires under the console and then bring them back out. That piece that goes all the way over the top, and you got to use like a big screwdriver or something and pry that out, but it comes right out. Okay, then from there, you come through, this is your live well area. You can come through and you can see where I routed the conduit duct underneath up to the front, and that piece I had off earlier to the fish finder. What you're going to find is here in the middle, they bring out the wiring over here for the trolling motor, so you can plug it in. You will have to put one of these ends on your trolling motor wire when you get done, but that's not too hard to do. There again, you can crimp it and put a piece of heat shrink on it, and it's pretty waterproof. Not too hard to do. You can also hardwire it in there if you'd like. Along with that, you may have to dig for it, there's wiring for your fish finder. And the red's the hot, the black's the neutral. You can see here. What I did on this one, this was my original fish finder, and it was a 7-inch striker. Good little fish finder, but I wanted something with maps, and I wanted to be able to communicate with my console unit. Unfortunately, the console unit's a 93 SV Garmin, and that is the one model that will not communicate through the blue and brown wires, which come on every power connection with Garmin. It's got to be done with an Ethernet cable, which I went ahead and bought the waterproof marine cable here. Pretty nice unit. It was about 50 bucks, but I think being up on the deck, having it waterproof is gonna pay for itself. So anyway, what I wanted to show you, my original installation, I used butt splices. This installation, I'm actually gonna go ahead and solder these on here, because now that I've had this boat for 3 years, I found out there is a lot of vibration up here when you're going through the waves. So I'm going to go ahead and solder it. So I took some heat shrink, got a couple of pieces of red and an overall piece of black. You can see there, slide them on first, otherwise you're going to be taping it. Okay. Plug for Harbor Freight tools. Okay. You can get the heat shrink from them. I think if you catch them on sale, these are like $1 or $2 for a pack of heat shrink. It's not the greatest in the world, but it'll definitely insulate a wire. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and strip the wire. This is 14 gauge. Take your ends there. Okay, now this type of cable, it's called a URD. It's kind of like, it's an underground, but it's kind of like the fixture wire. So it's got one, you can tell the difference in the two even though they're not color coded. So normally the one with the ridges on it, and I know you can't see it, but you can feel it, is going to be your neutral or your negative. So we're going to go ahead and solder that one up. I had to go get a little cheater there, little clip. All right. We'll put a little bit more on that and we'll get it cleaned up. Hey, another thing, rosin core solder. Important, if you try to use just regular solder, you'll have to use flux. With small wires, it doesn't work real good. So go down, get rosin core solder. And you can see how easy that was. Makes a real nice finish on there. And very strong, very strong. Best connection you can get with electrical. Remember, electrical, what starts your fires, what hurts you is loose connections. Okay, soldering is always going to be your best for any kind of electronics. Power connections are good, like this. Not really necessary, but like I say, a lot of vibration up here. So once you've made your solder joints, go ahead and slip this tubing up a little bit, approximately halfway. Even those up. And we're going to shrink them down. Okay, I'm using a heat shrink gun. A little propane torch will work too, but I wouldn't advise it working around a boat. Start at one end, work your way around slowly. And you see it shrinks right down over that wire. And go ahead and do the other one. Okay. To get my two cables that I need for my new Garmin SV93 or 93 SV, I got my Ethernet cord and my power cord up here. Transducer will go on the trolling motor, and I'll show you that later. Anyway, to get the Ethernet cable ran, I went ahead and went along the edge of the boat here, and I had to put it up high. I didn't like it, but I couldn't fish it through because it was such a large head on there. But anyway, there's a pretty nice channel that goes down through there. You got to pull the carpet back a little bit, like that. You put it up in there, take a thin piece of wood and run it along the edge, back and forth, and put that carpet back in there. If you'll notice, because I didn't use a regular marine cable, and this is what comes stock from Tracker, I use this tubing. It's just a plastic conduit. It's split in the middle. Hope you can see that. Okay, and you can put your cables in there, and that gives it a lot more protection. The other thing, take some electrical tape and tape it up about every 12 inches just put a wrap or two of tape around it. After you get the cable in it, don't try to pull the cable through it. It's pretty hard to do, and that'll keep it all together for you. One other thing I did do that I didn't mention before, this orange twine here. I did run a fish tape down through here and pulled this twine in. It goes down lower in the hole. So if I want to put something in here later on, all I got to do is remove this. It goes up towards the console, and I can just pull my new wire in without having to run the fish tape through it. Make it a lot easier. So these go in here pretty tightly. You got to kind of work your cables in here. The other thing you'll notice is after you've done this 3 or 4 times, the screws get pretty loose, and you got to upgrade your screws. You got to put bigger screws in. So just keep that in mind. You know how many times you're going to be taking this off, because trust me, if you're just getting into this, you're going to want to upgrade. You're going to want more fish finders. You're going to want to put a different trolling motor on it. All sorts of things. Okay, I promised you guys I would show you the transducer cable installation. And that's this piece here, the orange one. And it comes up, you cannot cut your transducer cable, so you're going to have a coil. What I did to keep it secure, I just put it inside my, my power for my trolling motor. So my installation's a little bit different, and you can find this video on YouTube. I have a Terova, which has a lot of good and bad features. One of the bad features is you can't route a transducer cable down the shaft. So what I've done is I've taken a rod sock and run my cable through it, twisted it around the shaft, and run it up like so. I've had it out a few times like that. It does seem to work okay. I think it's going to be a continuous maintenance process, and probably have to change those socks out once in a while. But for now, I think it'll work. I was using the transducer in the trolling motor, and I left it on chirp. That was a problem. What it ended up doing was melting the epoxy, and I had to take the motor apart and get it all cleaned up with some solvent because the motor was sticking and it wasn't running real good. But anyway, there is a good video on YouTube of how to do this, so I won't go into detail on it. And that's what the transducer cable looks like when the trolling motor is stowed. Not too bad an installation, but I do want to do something a little better later on. I'm just not sure what that's going to be. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe. Get out on the water and have a great day, and we'll see you next time.